The patrol ship moved slowly through the empty space at the edge of their territory. Commander watched the darkness through the observation window. Nothing interesting ever happened in this sector. It was quiet, boring, just empty space and distant stars. Then the scanner made a sound. "Commander," said the officer at the controls, "we found something, a ship. It is damaged and drifting." Turned around, his 4 eyes narrowed with interest. What kind of ship? Unknown design, small, maybe an exploration vessel. The officer paused. "Commander, I think it is human." The word hung in the air like smoke. Human. They knew about humans. Everyone in the galaxy knew about them. They were a young species from a small blue planet called Earth. They had only been traveling in space for a few hundred years. They were weak, soft. Their bodies had no armor, no claws, no natural weapons. They needed machines to survive in space. They needed suits to breathe on other worlds. They were fragile things. They were different. They had conquered 17 star systems. Their empire stretched across the galaxy like a dark hand. They were tall, creatures with hard shells and sharp limbs. They had been warriors for 10,000 years. They feared nothing. "Bring the ship in," ordered. "Let us see what we have found." The patrol ship used its tractor beam to pull the damaged human vessel into the cargo bay. It was a small ship, barely big enough for a crew of 5. The hull was torn open in several places. Burn marks covered the metal. Something had attacked this ship. Something had nearly destroyed it. Led his soldiers into the cargo bay. They surrounded the human ship with weapons ready. The airlock opened with a hiss of escaping air. Inside, the ship was dark and cold. Emergency lights flickered red. The smell of blood and burned metal filled the air. "Search it," commanded. His soldiers moved through the ship. They found bodies. 4 humans, all dead. 3 had died from the damage to the ship. 1 had died from wounds, probably during whatever attack had crippled the vessel. Their blood was red like rust, like old iron. They found this color strange. Their own blood was violet. Then they found the 5th human. He was in the medical bay, lying on a bed. His body was covered in wounds, burns on his arms, a deep cut across his chest. His face was pale and covered in sweat, but his chest moved up and down. He was breathing. He was alive. "Commander," a soldier called out, "this one still lives." Walked into the medical bay and looked down at the human. It was a male, young by human standards, maybe 30 years old. He had short black hair and a face that looked ordinary. There was nothing special about him. He looked like any other human. But something made pause. Even unconscious, even wounded and near death, there was something about this human. His face was too calm. His breathing was too steady. Most creatures, when they were hurt this badly, showed pain even in sleep. This human looked like he was simply resting. "Take him to the holding cell," ordered. "Treat his wounds, keep him alive. The council will want to speak with him." The soldiers carried the human out of the ship. As they moved him, noticed something else. The human's hands. They were covered in scars. Old scars, layered over each other, years of damage written into his skin. These were not the hands of an explorer or a scientist. These were the hands of someone who had fought many times, someone who had hurt others and been hurt in return. Felt a small flicker of something in his chest. It was not fear. They did not feel fear. It was more like curiosity. What was this human? What was his story? The patrol ship changed course and headed for the journey took 6 hours. During that time, the human remained unconscious in his cell. Medical officers treated his wounds. They were surprised by what they found. The human's body was covered in old injuries, scars from blades, scars from burns, marks that looked like they came from claws and teeth. This human had been hurt many, many times, and yet he had survived every time. "He is strong," one medical officer noted, "for a human." "They are all weak," another replied. "This one is just lucky." When the ship arrived soldiers took the human from his cell. He was still unconscious. They put chains on his wrists and ankles. heavy chains made for dangerous prisoners. It seemed like too much for one small human, but the commander had ordered it. They carried him through the great city, past towers of black stone that reached toward the sky. There was a dark place. The sun was dim and red. The buildings were sharp and cold. Everything here spoke of power and conquest. The soldiers brought the human to the council chamber. This was the heart of the Dominion, a massive room made of obsidian, with 9 thrones arranged in a half circle. On those thrones sat the 9 most powerful beings in the empire, the Grand Council. They ruled over billions of and 17 conquered worlds. They decided who lived and who died. They decided which species would be enslaved and which would be destroyed. High Chancellor sat on the central throne. He was old, ancient even by standards. His shell was cracked and gray with age, but his 4 eyes were sharp and intelligent. He had led for 300 years. Under his rule, they had conquered more worlds than ever before. The soldiers dropped the human on the floor in front of the council. The chains rattled against the obsidian. The sound echoed through the chamber. "So," said his voice like stones grinding together, "this is a human." He looked at the small creature on the floor, so fragile, so weak. They had been watching humanity for decades now. They had studied them. They had made plans. Soon, very soon, the fleet would move toward Earth. They would add humanity to their collection of conquered species. These soft creatures would make good slaves. But first, this one would be useful. He would tell them everything about human defenses, human weapons, human weaknesses. Then he would die like all the others. The human's eyes opened. They were dark brown, almost black, and as the council watched, those eyes moved slowly around the room, not with fear, not with confusion. The human looked at each council member one by one. He looked at the guards. He looked at the doors. He looked at the weapons. He was counting. Park took a slow breath and waited. His time would come soon. Park had been awake for several minutes before he opened his eyes. This was something they had taught him in training. When you wake up in an unknown place, do not move. Do not show that you are awake. Listen first. Learn where you are. Learn who is around you. Then open your eyes. He had heard the talking. He had felt the cold stone floor beneath his body. He had smelled the strange air of an alien world. He knew he was in trouble, but trouble was something understood very well. Now his eyes were open and he could see everything clearly. 9 sat on thrones in front of him. They were tall creatures, maybe 3 meters high, with bodies like giant insects. Hard shells covered their skin. 4 arms grew from their sides. 4 eyes watched him from faces that showed no emotion. Guards stood around the room, counted 12 of them. They carried long blades and plasma weapons. The doors were behind him, about 20 meters away. The chains on his wrists were heavy but not impossible. The locks were simple. Stored all this information in his mind. He would need it soon. "It is awake," one of the council members said. High Chancellor leaned forward on his throne. His old eyes studied with cold interest. "Yes, and it is watching us. Look at its eyes, it is thinking." "All creatures think," another council member said, "even animals." True made a gesture with one of his arms. "Bring the Inquisitor." A door opened at the side of the chamber. A new entered. This one was different from the others. His shell was covered in strange symbols. He carried a box made of dark metal. His movements were slow and careful, like a doctor approaching a patient. "This is okay," said our Chief Inquisitor. "He will ask you questions, human. You will answer them." OK walked toward and knelt down in front of him. He opened his metal box. Inside were tools, sharp tools, tools designed to cause pain. "I have questioned many species," OK said. His voice was soft, almost gentle. "I have learned their secrets. I have broken their minds. No one has ever resisted me." He picked up a thin blade from the box. "You will tell us everything about your people, your military, your defenses, your weaknesses. You will tell us because the pain will be too great to bear." Looked at the blade. Then he looked at OK's face. Then he did something that surprised everyone in the room. He laughed. It was a quiet laugh, low and soft, but it echoed through the chamber like thunder. The guards shifted nervously. Even some council members moved in their seats. "You find this funny?" OK asked. "I find it interesting," said. His voice was calm and steady. "You think you understand pain, you think you can break me with your little knives." He shook his head slowly. "You have no idea what pain is." OK's eyes narrowed. "We shall see." He pressed the blade against his shoulder and made a cut. The blade was sharp. It went deep into the muscle. Red blood flowed down his arm and dripped onto the floor. Did not scream. He did not even close his eyes. He just watched the blood fall and said nothing. OK made another cut, and another. He worked slowly and carefully, like an artist creating a painting. Each cut was designed to cause maximum pain. Each wound was placed in a sensitive area where the nerves were close to the surface. They had been doing this for thousands of years. They had perfected the art of torture. They knew exactly how to hurt a creature without killing it. They knew how to keep the pain going for hours, for days, for weeks. But something was wrong. The human was not reacting the way he should. His body showed signs of pain. His muscles tightened. Sweat appeared on his face, but his eyes remained calm. His breathing remained steady. And strangest of all, his heart rate did not increase. They had machines that could monitor a prisoner's body, heart rate, breathing, brain activity. When a creature felt pain, these numbers changed. They went up. The body prepared to fight or run. This was true for every species they had ever encountered. But the human's heart rate stayed the same, slow and steady, like he was sleeping. "This is not possible," OK said. He looked at the monitoring device again. "The readings must be wrong." "The readings are correct," a technician replied. "His heart is beating 52 times per minute. It has not changed since we started." Leaned forward, interested now. "Ask him questions." OK turned back to, "Where are your fleet bases? How many ships does humanity have? What are your weapons?" Smiled. Blood covered his face and arms now. His shirt was torn and red, but he smiled like a man who knew a secret. "You made a mistake," he said quietly. "What mistake?" "You should have killed me while I was unconscious." OK laughed. It was a clicking, chittering sound that all made when they found something funny. "You are one creature, wounded, chained, surrounded by guards. You are in the heart of our empire in the most secure room on our planet." He gestured around the chamber. "What could you possibly do?" Looked at him for a long moment. His dark eyes were steady and cold, like deep water in winter. "On my world," said, "there is an animal called a tiger. It is a predator. It hunts other animals for food. Do you know what makes the tiger dangerous?" OK did not answer. "It is not the tiger's teeth," continued. "It is not the claws, it is not the strength. Many animals have these things." He paused. "What makes the tiger dangerous is that it never stops. When a tiger decides to kill something, it keeps going until the job is done. It does not care about pain. It does not care about wounds. It does not stop until its prey is dead." He leaned forward slightly, and his chains rattled. "Humans are not like other species you have conquered," said. "We did not evolve on a peaceful world. We evolved on a death world. Everything on Earth is trying to kill everything else. We survived by being more dangerous than the things that hunted us." His voice dropped to a whisper. "We are all tigers." OK felt something strange in his chest. It took him a moment to recognize the feeling. He had not felt it in centuries. It was fear. "Enough talk," OK said. He picked up another tool from his box. This one was designed to cause much more pain. "You will answer our questions or you will suffer." Smile widened. "I was hoping you would say that." His eyes moved one more time around the room. 12 guards, 9 council members, 1 inquisitor, 22 targets. The doors were 20 meters away. He had 6 minutes, maybe 7, before reinforcements could arrive. Enough time. Took a slow, deep breath, then he began to move. The sound of bones breaking echoed through the council chamber, but it was not the sound he expected. It was the sound of breaking his own thumbs. The chains around his wrists were designed for large, strong creatures. They fit tightly around the hand, making it impossible to slip free. But they did not know something about human anatomy. The human thumb is a wonderful thing. It lets humans grip tools and weapons. It is one of the reasons humans became the dominant species on Earth. But it is also a weakness. If you break your thumbs, your hands become smaller, small enough to slip through chains. Had learned this in training. He had practiced it many times. The pain was terrible, but pain was just information. Pain told you that something was wrong. It did not control you unless you let it. He did not let it. His hands came free from the chains. OK was still kneeling in front of him, holding the torture tool. The Inquisitor's 4 eyes went wide with surprise. He opened his mouth to shout a warning. He never got the chance. Moved like water, like wind, like something that had no bones. His hand shot forward and grabbed the chain that still hung from his wrist. He swung it in a tight arc. The heavy metal link struck OK's throat with a wet cracking sound. The Inquisitor fell backward, choking on his own broken windpipe. The guards reacted. They were well-trained soldiers. They had fought in many battles. They raised their weapons and began to fire. But was not where he had been a moment ago. He was already moving, rolling across the floor, grabbing OK's body and using it as a shield. Plasma bolts struck the dead Inquisitor's shell, burning through and filling the air with smoke. One guard stepped forward, blade raised, dropped OK's body and drove his fist into the guard's knee joint. The shell there was thinner. It cracked under the blow. The guard stumbled, took his blade. Now he had a weapon. The next 4 seconds were a blur of motion, moved through the guards like a ghost through walls. He did not fight the way they expected. He did not stand and exchange blows. He flowed. He slipped between attacks. He struck at weak points. Eyes, joints, throats. Every had the same weak spots, had studied their anatomy during his months of reconnaissance. He knew exactly where to cut. 3 guards fell in the first 4 seconds. The council members were screaming now. Their deep, rumbling voices filled the chamber with noise. Some were trying to reach the doors. Others were calling for reinforcements into their communication devices. One was trying to pick up a weapon from a fallen guard. Stayed on his throne, his old eyes watched everything. He had lived for 300 years. He had seen many battles, but he had never seen anything like this. The human moved like nothing in experience. It was not speed exactly. Warriors were fast. Some of them were faster than this human. It was something else. It was the way the human predicted every attack. The way he seemed to know where each guard would move before they moved. The way he was always in the right place at the right time. This was not luck. This was skill built over years of practice. This was muscle memory trained through thousands of hours of combat. This human had been shaped into a weapon. Another guard died, then another. The obsidian floor was becoming slick with violet blood. 7 guards down in less than 30 seconds. The remaining 5 guards formed a tight group, shields raised, weapons ready. They had stopped trying to capture the human. Now they were trying to survive. "What is this creature?" one of the council members screamed. Finally spoke. His voice was calm, almost thoughtful. "This is a human," he said. "A real human, not the soft scientists and traders we have seen before. This is what humanity creates when it wants to kill." Heard the words. He did not react to them. He was in a different place now, a place in his mind where there was no fear, no anger, no emotion at all. There was only the mission, only the targets, only the next movement. He charged the group of guards. They fired their plasma weapons, twisted his body in ways that should have been impossible. One bolt grazed his side, burning through flesh. Another hit his leg. The pain was enormous. He ignored it. pain was just information. The mission was not complete. He hit the guard formation like a hammer hitting glass. His blade found gaps in their shields. His empty hand grabbed weapons and turned them against their owners. He was bleeding now badly, but he did not slow down. They had studied human biology. They knew humans were persistent predators. On ancient Earth, humans had hunted by following their prey for hours, for days, never stopping, never resting until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. Humans were not the fastest or the strongest creatures on their planet, but they never stopped. They never gave up. They had thought this was a weakness, a sign of stubbornness, of limited intelligence. They did not understand what it really meant. It meant that a human, even a wounded human, even a human who should be dead, would keep fighting until the job was done. The last guard fell, stood in the center of the chamber, covered in blood both red and violet. His body was damaged. The plasma burns were serious. The blade wound in his leg went to the bone. His broken thumbs hung uselessly at his sides. But he was still standing. He turned to face the council. 7 council members had managed to reach the doors. They were pounding on them, screaming for help. But the doors were locked. In the chaos, someone had activated the security protocols. The chamber was sealed. They were trapped inside with him. 2 council members had not run. High Chancellor still sat on his throne, watching. And 1 younger member, perhaps foolishly brave, had picked up a guard's blade and was holding it in a fighting stance. Looked at the young one. "Put it down," he said. "You have never used a blade in your life. I have used one every day for 15 years. The young council member hesitated. Then slowly he lowered the blade. Smart choice. Walked toward the thrones. His leg was leaving a trail of red blood on the black floor. He could feel his body weakening. The wounds were too severe. He had minutes left, maybe less. But he had enough time. Spoke as approached. "You cannot escape. Even if you kill us all, you will die in this chamber. The doors will not open for you. Reinforcements are coming." Stopped in front of the High Chancellor's throne. He looked up at the Ancient with eyes that held no hatred, no anger, just cold, professional focus. "I know," said, "I am not trying to escape." "Then what are you doing?" Smiled. It was a strange smile, tired and bloody but somehow peaceful. "I am sending a message." He raised his blade. The doors to the council chamber exploded inward. 20 soldiers rushed through the opening, weapons raised, ready to kill whatever threat had triggered the security lockdown. They stopped when they saw the floor. The obsidian was covered in blood, violet blood from bodies, red blood from the human who stood in the center of the room. The bodies of guards lay scattered like broken toys, and there, in front of the thrones, lay the 9 most powerful beings in the Dominion. All of them were dead. High Chancellor had died last. His ancient body was slumped on his throne, a blade wound through his chest. His 4 eyes were still open, staring at nothing. The expression on his face was strange. It was not fear. It was not anger. It was something like respect. Park stood in the middle of the carnage. He was barely standing. His body was covered in wounds. Blood ran down his face, his arms, his legs. His broken thumbs hung at strange angles. The plasma burns on his side and leg were blackened and smoking. But he was alive. The soldiers raised their weapons. "Do not move," their commander shouted. "You are surrounded." Looked at them. His eyes were glassy now, losing focus. The blood loss was too severe. His body was shutting down. He had maybe 2 minutes of consciousness left. But he smiled. "Look up," he said quietly. The commander hesitated. Then slowly, he looked up through the observation windows that lined the top of the chamber. The windows showed the sky above the capital city, and in that sky, something was happening. Explosions. Bright flashes of light, one after another, spreading across the heavens like stars being born and dying in rapid succession. The orbital defense platforms, the massive weapons that protected them from attack, were being destroyed. "What is this?" the commander whispered. Smile widened. "That is the human fleet." It was impossible. The intelligence said the human fleet was months away. They were supposed to be on the other side of the galaxy, defending their own territory. There was no way they could be here now, attacking the heart of the Dominion. But the explosions in the sky said otherwise. Had planned this for months. His ship had not been attacked by accident. He had let them find him. He had let them capture him. His distress signal, the one his ship had broadcast before it was brought aboard the patrol vessel, was not a cry for help. It was a message. A coded message that told the human fleet exactly where he was and exactly when to attack. The human fleet had been hiding, waiting for weeks. They had used stealth technology that they did not know humans possessed. They had crept slowly across space, engines cold, running silent. And when signal came, they had made the jump to faster-than-light travel and arrived at the inn minutes. 3 human dreadnoughts emerged from the light of their arrival. They were enormous ships, bristling with weapons, built for one purpose: war. The TSS Indomitable, the TSS Vengeance, the TSS Retribution. The names were not accidents. Humans chose their words carefully. "You were planning to invade Earth," said. His voice was getting weaker now. "I found your invasion plans. I read your intelligence reports. You thought we were weak. You thought we would be easy prey." The commander was not listening. He was watching the sky, watching his world's defenses crumble. "You were wrong," continued. "Humans are not prey. We have never been prey. We fought our way to the top of our food chain. We killed every predator that tried to hunt us. We survived ice ages and plagues and wars. We survived because we refused to die." He took a step forward and his leg gave out. He fell to his knees on the bloody floor. But even then, even kneeling and dying, his eyes remained steady. "And now your council is dead," he said. "Your fleet is burning, your defenses are falling. You woke up the wrong species." The commander finally looked at him. There was something new in his eyes, something that had not been there before. It was not anger or hatred or the desire for revenge. It was fear. "Kill him," the commander ordered. "Kill him now." The soldiers raised their weapons. 20 plasma guns pointed at one broken human kneeling on a bloody floor. Did not close his eyes. He looked at the weapons without fear. He had done his job. He had completed his mission. The council was dead. The fleet was here. Whatever happened to him now did not matter. Then the wall exploded. It was not an explosion from inside the chamber. It was an explosion from outside. Something had hit the building from the air. Something big. The wall cracked and crumbled, and through the dust and debris came figures in armor. Human armor. The first through the gap was a woman in heavy combat gear. She moved fast, firing her weapon at the soldiers before they could react. Behind her came more humans, a full squad of Marines, spreading out through the chamber with practiced precision. The fight was short. The soldiers were good, but they were shocked and confused. They had expected to kill one wounded human, not fight a full Marine assault team. Within 30 seconds, every in the chamber was dead. The woman in the lead walked toward. She took off her helmet. Her face was young and fierce, with short black hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. Her name was. She was a lieutenant in the Human Defense Force. She had served with for 3 years. "You look terrible," she said. Tried to laugh, but the sound came out as a cough. Blood sprayed from his lips. "You are late." "Traffic," replied. She knelt down beside him and began checking his wounds. Her hands were gentle despite her rough words. "The orbital defenses were annoying. We had to blow up a lot of things." "The fleet." "Already destroying what is left of their defense grid. The ground invasion will begin in 2 hours." She looked at the bodies around the chamber, at the dead council members, at the blood-covered floor. "I see you kept yourself busy." Someone had to. A medic rushed over. His name was a young man with quick hands and calm eyes. He looked at its wounds and his face went pale. He needs surgery now, said. These burns are 3rd degree. The leg wound has hit the artery. He is losing blood fast. Then stop talking and fix him, said. Opened his medical kit and began working. He injected painkillers, applied bandages, used a small laser tool to close the worst wounds. It was not proper surgery, but it would keep alive until they could get him to a real medical facility. More Marines were entering the chamber now, securing the area, checking the bodies, setting up communication equipment. The battle for the had begun. It would last for 3 more days. The military would fight hard, but they were leaderless now. Their council was dead. Their chain of command was broken. Did not see any of this. The painkillers were pulling him down into darkness. The last thing he saw before he lost consciousness was face, looking down at him with an expression that was almost soft. Rest now, she said. You did good, you did really good. He tried to answer, but the darkness took him before he could speak. Outside, the human fleet continued its attack. Ships flew through the burning sky, raining fire on the defenses. The empire that had conquered 17 star systems was falling, and it had started with 1 wounded human on a bloody floor. Park woke up in a white room. For a moment, he did not know where he was. The ceiling above him was smooth and clean. Soft light came from panels on the walls. The air smelled like medicine and recycled oxygen. A machine beside his bed made quiet beeping sounds. He was alive. This surprised him more than anything else. When he had fallen in the council chamber, he had been certain he was going to die. His wounds had been too severe. He had lost too much blood. But here he was, lying in a medical bed, breathing clean air, looking at a white ceiling. The door opened. Walked in, carrying a cup of something that smelled like coffee. She looked tired but healthy. Her armor was gone, replaced by simple military clothes. A bandage covered a small wound on her forehead. You are awake, she said. Good, I was getting bored waiting. Tried to speak, but his throat was dry. Handed him a glass of water from the table beside his bed. He drank it slowly. How long? He asked. His voice sounded strange to him, rough and weak. 5 days. Sat down in a chair beside the bed. The doctors said you should have died about 6 times. They have never seen anyone survive wounds like yours. They are writing papers about you. Wonderful. You are a medical miracle, apparently. They want to study your pain tolerance. She smiled slightly. I told them to leave you alone. You have been through enough experiments. Looked down at his body. Both his arms were wrapped in bandages. His chest was covered in healing patches. He could feel more bandages on his legs. When he moved his hands, he noticed that his thumbs had been reset and fixed. They would heal. The war, he asked. Over. Smile grew wider. The surrendered 2 days ago. Their military collapsed after we took there. 17 star systems are free now. Billions of enslaved people are being liberated. Closed his eyes. He felt something strange in his chest. It was not pain. It was something lighter, something almost like peace. The fleet performed beyond expectations, continued. The attack was perfect. Your signal gave us the exact coordinates. We dropped out of FTL right in their blind spot. They never saw us coming. The crew of my ship said quietly. They died getting that signal out. His expression became serious. I know. Their names will be remembered. They will be honored as heroes of the war. They deserve it. So do you. Opened his eyes. He did not feel like a hero. He felt like a man who had done a job that needed to be done, nothing more. The door opened again. This time, a woman in a captain's uniform entered. She was older than, with gray in her black hair and lines on her face that spoke of years of command. Her name was, and she was the captain of the TSS Indomitable. Sergeant Park, she said, It is good to see you awake." Captain walked to the window of the medical room. Outside could see the darkness of space, filled with the lights of human ships. They were still in orbit around The council chamber has been preserved, said. "We are leaving it exactly as you left it. The blood on the floor, the bodies, everything." Frowned. Why? "Because it sends a message." Turned to look at him. Her eyes were hard but not unkind. "The galaxy needs to understand what happened there. They need to know what one human can do when pushed too far." "I was just doing my job." "No," shook her head. "You did something more than that. You showed them what we are." She paused. "Do you know what they are calling you? The other species in the galaxy?" Did not answer. "They are calling you the fallen wanderer, the human who was captured, wounded, and left for dead, the human who killed an entire ruling council with his bare hands." Her voice became softer. "The human who refused to die." Looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of beings were hearing about what had happened in the council chamber. They were hearing about the species called humanity. They were learning that humans were not soft, weak creatures to be conquered and enslaved. They were learning to be afraid. "There will be consequences," said. "Other empires will see us as a threat now." "Yes," agreed, "and that is good. Fear is a powerful thing. It keeps predators away from prey, but more importantly, it keeps them away from each other." She smiled slightly. "No one will attack Earth now. No one will try to conquer humanity. They know what will happen if they try." The door opened one more time. The young medic who had saved life in the council chamber entered with a medical scanner. He looked nervous in the presence of the captain. "Sorry to interrupt," said. "I need to check his wounds." Nodded and stepped away from the window. "We will leave you to rest, Sergeant. When you are healed, there will be medals and ceremonies. The government wants to honor you." "I do not need medals." "I know, but the people need heroes. They need to see the face of the man who ended the war." She walked toward the door, then stopped. "One more thing. We recovered the bodies of your crew from the patrol ship. They will be buried on Earth with full military honors. Their families have been told that they died as heroes." Felt something tighten in his chest. "Thank you, Captain." Left, stayed for a moment longer, looking at with an expression he could not read. "You saved us all, you know," she said quietly. "If they had attacked Earth, millions would have died, maybe billions. Their invasion fleet was massive. We were not ready." "We were ready," said. "We just did not know it yet." Smiled at that. She touched his shoulder gently, then followed the captain out of the room. Began his examination, checking wounds and recording readings. He worked in silence for a few minutes, then spoke softly. "I have seen a lot of injuries," said, "in my training, in my service, but I have never seen anyone survive what you survived. The doctors say your body just refused to give up. Your heart kept beating when it should have stopped. Your blood kept flowing when there was almost none left." "Humans are stubborn," said. "It is more than that." Finished his examination and put away his scanner. "My grandmother used to tell me stories about our ancestors, about how they survived wars and famines and disasters. She said that humans have something inside them, something that other creatures do not have. She called it the fire that does not die." Thought about that. The fire that does not die. It was a good description. He had felt that fire in the council chamber when his body was broken and his blood was pouring onto the floor. It had kept him moving when every part of him screamed to stop. "Get some rest," said. "You need to heal." The young medic left and was alone with his thoughts. He looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere in that vast darkness, beings on 1,000 worlds were telling stories about the fallen wanderer. They were warning their children about the humans, the species that never stopped fighting, never stopped hunting, never stopped until the job was done. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humanity was not a prey species waiting to be conquered. They were apex predators who had simply been polite until given a reason not to be. And once humanity stopped being polite, even the mightiest empires could fall in 10 minutes. Closed his eyes and slept. Outside, the stars continued their eternal dance, and the universe remembered the day a wounded human changed everything.